Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Everyone. You know, there are thousands of people in El Paso, one of my favorite cities in Texas. It's a wonderful city and wonderful people. All these people will be impacted, the extensions of friends and families and neighbors and coworkers. This takes a tremendous toll on any community. And I look at this evil act, and let's condemn it for what it is. Evil.
It's evil.
Evil. And I say, how long are we going to let, for example, and ignore at the federal level particularly, where they can do something about the video game industry?
What?
You know, in this manifesto that we believe is from the shooter, this manifesto, he talks about living out his super soldier fantasy on Call of Duty. We know that the video game industry is bigger than the movie industry and the music industry combined. And there have been studies that say it impacts people and studies that says it does not.
Right.
But I look at the common denominators as a 60-some-year-old father and grandfather myself. What's changed in this country?
Guns?
We've always had guns. We've always had evil. But what's changed where we see this rash of shooting? And I see a video game industry that teaches young people to kill.
All right, so that is the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. He thinks it's video games. Anybody think it's video games? Please let us know if you think it's video games, and we'll work really hard on banning video games. Nobody. All right, good, because China, the UK, every place in the world plays first-person shooter video games. And nobody, no country in the world has seen its 250th mass shooting this year except America. It is a uniquely American problem. And the common denominator is the gun. Whether it's somebody who plays video games, somebody who doesn't play video games, whether it's somebody who's under 20 or somebody who's over 50, somebody in Las Vegas leaning out the window and shooting down 59 people, or somebody that kills 9 people in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I think you all know that. Video games, anybody? Video games, going once, going twice.
I know nothing.
I know you know nothing, so shut up. Okay, it isn't video games. All right, Fox took another, they took another shot at it. They brought on a counterterrorism expert on the Fox News Network, a news network that promotes the replacement theory constantly. Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, everybody insinuating that the Democrats are for open borders because they want brown people to replace you as voters over and over and over on an endless loop all day, every day. So now there's a terrorism, activity in, Texas. There's a manifest. It's a screed, okay, a racist freaking screed. So Fox News calls their counterterrorism expert to the TV to report on what this is.
So there are certain key indicators that are looked for as law enforcement is trained more broadly as to how to be on the alert for this type of incident. And of course, as we remember back from about a month ago, there were some enhanced bulletins about potential ISIS threats to large gatherings in the U.S. Maybe just propaganda on their part, but those were issued.
So when something like this breaks out, the first thing that pops into your mind is the possibility of some kind of, organized terrorism, not necessarily domestic.
It's more, first it's the tragedy, of course, is first. But yes, as a national security analyst, there's part of my brain that always goes, bam, is that something to do with ISIS. And then I wait and watch, like we all are tonight, to learn more about the motives. But the fact is, the world we live in, we know that although the physical caliphate of ISIS has been defeated, the terrorist and extremist groups continually say they want to target the West, they want to attack America and Europe, and this is the kind of thing that we see.
This is the kind of thing that we see. It's ISIS. ISIS. It's ISIS, everybody. That's what Fox News decided to go with. It's ISIS. It's ISIS. But once it was proven that it was an American boy, that it was 2 American boys with, high capacity, high magazine capacity weapons with semi-automatics. Once that happened, then it wasn't ISIS anymore. It wasn't ISIS, and it wasn't even terrorism anymore. It was now mental illness.
We're talking to a lot of people, and a lot of things are in the works, and a lot of good things. And we have done much more than most administrations, and it's not really not talked about very much, but we've done actually a lot. But perhaps more has to be done. But this is also a mental illness problem. If you look at both of these cases, this is mental illness. These are really people that are very, very seriously mentally ill. So a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening right now.
So here's your question. Is ISIS mentally ill? See what I mean? When they think they can point at ISIS, okay, ISIS, what she was called. When they think they can point at ISIS, it's terrorism. It's organized terrorism because the caliphate's gone now, and so they are planning and plotting, and they communicate with each other on social media, and they use encrypted apps, and they want to attack and blah 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 and this and that. So it's terrorism. But as soon as they find out that it's some guy from Texas or some guy from Ohio, well, then all of a sudden, it's mental illness, or it's video games, or it's, just something random. It's, I don't know, is ISIS mentally ill? Because if you're going to say that these kids suffered from mental illness because they were radicalized online, then ISIS is mental illness across the Arab world. Do you understand how stupid this whole conversation is? And why is it so devoid of any meaning or any thoughtfulness? Because they don't want to legislate on guns. They don't want to reinstate the assault weapons ban that we had for 10 years. And these kinds of things decreased. Did it stop everybody? No. Will it ever? Not in this here country. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But you can start to mitigate the problem. But first you have to know what it is. And it ain't mental illness, and it ain't video games. It is a radicalization of Americans, especially young Americans, on various platforms. And it's not just 8chan, and it's not just 4chan. It's the president himself, and it's Fox News that keeps on constantly bleeding out that it's a replacement theory. The replacement, they're going to replace you. I have the most comprehensive list I could get together. Laura Ingraham, okay? She fear-mongered on every platform she's got. Fox News, her podcast, radio shows. She said immigrants are coming to, quote, replace kind of the old America with a new America. Pete Hegseth said Trump has reached an agreement with Mexico to, quote, stop the invasion. It is an invasion of illegal immigrants. Ingraham claimed this is an invasion of the country. Quote, they want to tell you, but they want to tell you you can't say the word invasion anymore, but they are invading our country. Then she said Congress wants to demographically change our country by bringing so many new people into the country that don't have an affinity for our country. A contributor named Lawrence Jones, he said, you must put the migrants seeking asylum in camps at the border because they're invading the U.S. border. He said, unlike Jews in Nazi Germany, migrants in America are invading the U.S. border. Pat Buchanan and Laura Ingraham, quote, the whole character and composition of the nation is changing. We're becoming a different country without consulting the American people who never voted for any of this. You're talking about the destiny of our country. She warned Democrats want to replace many of you, Tucker Carlson. I'm not against immigrants. Nobody cares about them. It's like, shut up, you're dying. We're going to replace you. Let's pray. Come for the whole thing in a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.